ASMR video, and in today's video I'm going to be looking at this map of New Zealand, and what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to colour in the map of New Zealand, followed by some labelling of some major towns and cities within the country. So I will be doing that in just a few minutes time, but first of all what I'm going to look at is some information here on New Zealand that I have pulled up from the internet, just some random facts and figures surrounding the nation of New Zealand. So we will take a look at that first of all, and what we can see here from the information is, the first point is that the population of New Zealand is just over 5 million people, so it's not a very highly populated country. And the official population is 5,084,300 people. The capital city of New Zealand is Wellington, which you will see labelled on our map in due course. So that is the capital city of New Zealand. And down here we just have some information on the country, and the first point here says that the 4 stars on the flag represent the Southern Cross constellation, and to my knowledge that is a constellation in the sky of stars which you can see through highly powered telescopes, etc. But you may actually be able to see these just with your normal sight. I'm not exactly sure, but that is what the 4 stars on the flag of New Zealand stand for. The national colours are red, black and white, which is actually quite new knowledge to me. I wasn't aware of what the national colours of New Zealand was before looking up this information. But there you go, the national colours are red, white and black. New Zealand has 3 official languages, which are English, Maori and New Zealand Sign Language. So prior to the making of this video I was aware that English was their main language, and I have heard of the language of Maori, which I guess is spoken by a smaller population of the country, but I'd never heard of New Zealand Sign Language, so I think I'd be quite interested to look up what that is exactly. But those are the 3 official languages of New Zealand. And down here it says it consists of 2 main land masses, North Island, which you can see here, and South Island, which is the bigger island here to the south, with around 600 smaller islands. And obviously on this map it isn't highly detailed, so we can't see any of the smaller 600 islands apart from this one down here. But yeah, that's quite interesting to know that there are as many as 600 smaller islands. And then we move on to the next point, which says New Zealand covers a total area of 268,021 square kilometres, or 103,500 square miles if you prefer. I have made a slight typo there, please excuse me for that, but yeah, it is situated in the southwestern Pacific Ocean. It is quite isolated in the location on the globe. So if you are to look that up, you will notice that it is quite isolated. There isn't a lot surrounding New Zealand. The closest landmass of note is Australia, which is to the west, slightly northwest of the country. The national currency is the New Zealand dollar. So there are a number of countries worldwide which use the dollar as their national currency, and each one is slightly different to the other. New Zealanders refer to themselves as Kiwis, and this term is known internationally. And this is a term that I am actually aware of. I think a lot of people are aware of this term, so they do refer to themselves as Kiwis. So this term is in no way seen as a derogatory term or an insult in any way, as New Zealanders do in fact refer to themselves as Kiwis as well. Owing to their remoteness, the islands of New Zealand were the last large habitable islands to be settled by humans. So that's quite an interesting fact. But again, if you take into consideration where New Zealand is on the map, or on the globe rather, you can understand why it was the last place on Earth to be inhabited by humans. And our final point here is that the cars drive on the left side of the road, and that is actually the same as here in the UK, even though there isn't anywhere on the globe really further away from where I am than New Zealand, but they do drive on the left side of the road, which I think they also do in Australia. So that is our final point to make from this section of our video. And now I'm going to move on to the colouring section of our map. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to use this blue pencil, and because New Zealand is an island nation, it is surrounded by water. So what I'm just going to very quickly do is give it a blue sort of outline here just around the edge of the land of New Zealand. So we don't need to be overly fussy with this. We just need to give it a bit of a blue outline, and I'm going to turn my page slightly for this portion just so that I can do it a bit quicker and a bit easier. So as I say, we don't need to be overly fussy with this portion. We can do this quite quickly. But I think it adds a good bit to the video just so we are made aware that it is an island nation. It's always good to put some blue outline around islands just so that it's not blank. As a child, I actually had a pen pal who lived in New Zealand. When I went to a church when I was young, one of the tasks that we had was to write to pen pals, and I think the church set it up and we were able to choose our pen pals. I chose a guy in New Zealand who was called Brett, and what we had to do was basically write letters, and I remember writing at least 2 letters to Brett in New Zealand, and we exchanged a photograph of each other. I can still vaguely remember the photograph of Brett. I think he was in a river. Yeah, so it was good fun. That is one of my memories, or one of the things that I think of when I think of New Zealand. So I hope Brett is doing well, whatever he's doing in life. It was a very brief friendship. I think we exchanged a couple of letters. Something else that I think of when I think of New Zealand is my uncle had a friend living here in Northern Ireland from New Zealand. And I don't recall his name, but my dad and my brother simply referred to him as Kiwi. But I do remember the guy, he was quite funny. I remember as a child thinking the way he spoke was very amusing. But that is just the accent of New Zealand. It is quite a unique accent. I do believe that they kind of mix up their vowels with certain words. So for example, if I was to say fish and chips, New Zealand might pronounce fish as a fush, which is quite amusing. It's just the way that the English language was kind of developed there. And there are a number of words where the vowels are kind of mixed up. So whilst I would say fish, F-I-S-H, the way people in New Zealand might pronounce it is fush, F-U-S-H. And there are other examples, but I would need to look those up. That's just one that's came to mind. It is a very unique accent. But when I was doing some research for this video last night, I remember reading that it's one of the safest countries in the world to live in. So yeah, if you ever want to visit New Zealand, hopefully you will be very safe when you do so. New Zealand also has one of the best rugby teams, or certainly most well-known rugby teams in the world, which are known as the All Blacks. And I'm not a huge fan of rugby as a sport, but I know a lot of people are. But I know a few things about the New Zealand rugby team. For instance, before each game they perform I guess you could call it, I'm not sure if it's a dance or what sort of word you would use to describe it, but it's called the haka, and it's basically a traditional sort of dance that New Zealanders do, and it's sort of, I think they used it to intimidate oppositions. But basically the rugby team uses it to try to intimidate the teams that they're playing, and it's really very impressive. So if you've never seen the haka performed, you really should look it up on YouTube. It's fantastic to see, and they perform it with a lot of pride. So we are almost finished doing the blue sea outline of our islands here. If I just spin the page back round, I think that will do for the blue section. And we will move on. choose black for the other island, since red and black are two of the national colours of New Zealand, but if I was to use black, then we wouldn't be able to see the locations of the towns and cities that I will later be labelling. So I've chosen green for North Island, and this nice shade of red for South Island. I think that is transferring well to the page. These are new colouring pens that I just got. This is my first time using them. So I think it's transferring to the page quite well there. I don't need to lean especially hard when colouring this in. So I'm just trying to be as neat as I can when going around the edges of the map here. And we have almost completed the South Island colouring portion. I think that will do just fine. Just filling in a few of the whiter areas here. Okay, so that is the red section of the map coloured in. And now we will move on to this very light green shade. I guess you could say it's a lime green shade of green. And we will begin with colouring the North Island here. And the colour that is coming out on the page is slightly darker than it shows on the pen itself. But that's not a problem. It's still fairly light, and it will allow us to see the location of our towns and cities in just a few minutes when I begin to label them on our map here. So this island is a bit smaller than the larger South Island. And I just chose this green pen at random. I really could have chosen any colour to colour this part of the map in, so really green has no significance to New Zealand, I don't believe. So it was just a random colour I chose, just to give our map some colour and some life. A few more trickier areas on this part, especially as we move up towards the corner area here, up here. So we'll have to be as careful as we can once we reach that part of our map. So I'll just pop the cap back onto my colouring pen here. And now we move on to the labelling portion of the video. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this black liquid pen to label significant areas of New Zealand. So we'll begin, I think, with North Island and work our way round clockwise. So let's start up here, and up in this section here we have the Bay of Islands, and I'm going to put our dot in around about here. So this is the Bay of Islands, and I just going to bring it a line out for each location, and then write it on the page. So we have the Bay of Islands. That is our first location in New Zealand. And if we move down the coast here slightly to around about this area here, we have a place which is a bit difficult to pronounce, but it is Taranga, and it is spelled T-A-U-R-A-N-G-A, and that is Taranga, labelled on our map. And we will move on now further inland here to around about this section, and just going to draw our dot there and bring our line out from the page to about there. And this is Rotorua, and again it's not the easiest to pronounce. Some of these places are probably Maori type names. So we have Rotorua, and that is Rotorua. And the next part, or the next place that we're going to label, is not far from there, and it is here on our map, and we can bring our line out once again to around about there. And this is Taupo, which is spelled T-A-U-P-O, and that is Taupo. And near the coastline here we have Gisborne. So I'm just going to bring my line out there, and that is spelled G-I-S-B-O-R-N-E, and that is Gisborne. And if we move further down the coast here, around about this area here, we will bring our line out again, and this is a place called Napier, N-A-P-I-E-R, and it may have two names because there is a divide, and it may also be called Hastings, or perhaps Hastings is a town which is right beside Napier, but this is where they are located on our map. And the next part we are going to label is around about here. And let's just bring our line out. And this is a place which is called Palmerston North, and that is spelled P-A-L-M-E-R-S-T-O-N. is Masterton. And next, near the coast, right about here, we have the capital city, and I'm just going to do that slightly bigger. And this is Wellington. So let's just bring our line out there, and I will write this in capital letters as the capital city. Wellington, and that is Wellington, which is the capital of New Zealand. Okay, and we will continue on moving south, and we will move into South Island now. And let's see, we have right around here, near the coast again, we have a place with a Maori name, I guess, and it is Kaikoura. So I will attempt to pronounce that again. It is Kaikoura, and I'm not sure if that is 100% right, but that is the best effort I'm going to be able to make. Kaikoura, Kaikoura. And south of that, again near the coast, which a lot of these cities and towns are, we have right around here another one of the major places of note in New Zealand, and it is Christchurch, which you may have heard of. And this is one of the places that I had heard of before. Christchurch, and that is Christchurch. And then if we move further south, we have, let's see, around about this area here, we have a place called Dunedin, which is spelled D-U-N-E-D-I-N, and that is Dunedin. And moving around the coast, down around this area here, we have a place called Invercargill. So let's just bring our line out, and we spell that Invercargill, and that is Invercargill. So now we are at the island part, and I did actually forget to colour this in, so let's just give that little island some colour there, and then we will label this very small island. There we go. And this is called Stuart Island. So let's just bring our line out there, and we can write that in Stewartisland, and that is Stuart Island. So now we are going to move slightly up this coast, and in fact it is quite inland, and it is around about this area here. So let's put our dot in, and our line, which will come out to about there. And this is a place called Queerstown, which is quite a unique name for a town. is spelled Queerstown. Queerstown. And moving right along from that, we will move up the coast here to around about this area here. And put our dot in, bring our line out to the side. And this is a place called Greymouth. And that is spelled Greymouth. And that is Greymouth. Now moving further up the coast, around about this area here, we have a place called Nelson. So let's bring our line out once again, and that is spelled Nelson, and that is Nelson. Okay, and that is all of the places in South Island labelled. So now we will move up the west side of North Island, and right around this area here we have a place called New Plymouth. And there is actually a place in the United Kingdom called Plymouth. So that was easy to pronounce. Some of these names are quite difficult. And that is spelled Newplymouth. And that is New Plymouth. Then right around this area here we have a place called Hamilton, which is another place that is located in the UK. I believe there's a Hamilton in Scotland, and that is spelled Hamilton. And then finishing off our labeling for North Island, we have the most populated city in New Zealand, which is right around there. And you may have guessed what it is, as I haven't mentioned it to this point, and it is Auckland. And it's interesting to note that Wellington, the capital of New Zealand, isn't the most populous city in the country. It is in fact Auckland. And we spell Auckland Auckland. And that completes our labeling of the country of New Zealand. So, just having a quick look again at some of the places. We have the capital, Wellington, here, located on North Island, along with Auckland, the most populated city in New Zealand. And it's interesting to note that of all the towns and cities in New Zealand, Auckland is the only one with a population over 1 million people. No other cities in the country reaches as many people as that. So that is the only place in New Zealand that tops 1 million, which is quite an interesting fact. Not even the capital of Wellington has that many people. But there you go, guys. That is our map of New Zealand, coloured in and labelled, as well as some additional information as well. So I hope you enjoyed that video. I had fun making the video, and if you did enjoy the video, as always, don't forget to drop a like down below, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you will be notified channel. But as always, rest easy, sleep well, and I hope to see you all very soon for another video, and goodbye for now.